Welcome to Podcast for Fun. This is the show where we dive into the passion, the process, and the journeys of creative storytellers as they bring their stories to life. I'm your host, Sophia, and today we are joined by a talented artist, Joe Eisma. Thank you so much for being here, Joe.
Thank you for having me, Sophia.
So let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure. I'm a comic book artist. I've been working in comics for 16 years for various publishers, Image Comics, DC Comics, Archie Comics, mostly all freelance work pretty much. And I have a new book coming out at the end of this month, March, called Student Government.
Is student government like your story, or are you the artist for it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm a co-creator and the artist, so I developed it with the writers. So there's two writers, Dave Justice and Lila Sturgis, and we kind of all developed the story together, but they wrote the script.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you did you contribute in the storytelling?
Yeah, yeah. Like there were so the story itself is basically it's a young adult graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a group of four students who are the interim student government between semesters, between the fall and spring semester, right before the official student government comes in the spring, and they discover something really shocking about their school, that there's like a big gold mine underneath, and they have to, devise a plan in order to prevent the school from being bulldozed and mined for all the gold. And so it's lighthearted, it's humorous, but it's also very heartwarming and kind of about found family. And we they had the initial idea, Dave and Lila did, and they came up to my house a couple years ago, and we spent a weekend together just fleshing out the story, plot points,
Mm-hmm.
characters, and character designs.
That sounds so fun. It's my favorite
Yeah,
part,
yeah.
especially character design. I like doing that so much.
Yeah, it was great because like they had some kind of like broad strokes of where they wanted the story to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of helped them kind of narrow their focus a little bit on certain things. Like, well, what if we had this type of scene? And then they had these kind of just kind of generalized character archetypes that they
Mm-hmm.
wanted. And I helped them develop them into actual, well, people. I mean, fictional people, but like actual characters, and gave them a little bit of direction and like backstory. So.
What would you say is your favorite part about developing a comic?
I definitely think that initial development stage is probably the best part. Like because when you're collaborating with someone, that collaboration when it really works and when you really kind of gel with the other person or persons,
Mm-hmm.
that's such a like it's almost like you can't replicate that feeling in any other instance, and it's so gratifying and so energizing to be creating something from like the ground up, and that's my favorite, just like bringing this thing to life, whatever it is, if it's a graphic novel or a comic book miniseries or whatever, just building it up together at the very beginning. And then, the rest of it is fun, but it gets a little stressful towards, the latter part of the production, because then you have more people involved and you've got deadlines and stuff like that. But that initial kind of kernel of the idea when you're developing that's probably my favorite stage.
Did you always know that you wanted to be a comic book artist?
Well, it's funny because I kind of did as a kid. Like, so I'm definitely aging myself here. So I grew up in the 80s, and whenever I was in school, we would get assignments on worksheets, and
Mm-hmm.
I would always finish them and turn them over and start drawing. And I loved comics. I loved comics from an early age, and I just loved superheroes and drawing that stuff out. So, one of those early elementary assignments, which is, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I did put a comic book artist, but as you age, your tastes change and your interests change. And so I kind of fell out of it for a while, and I worked in a couple of different careers. And it was when I was out of grad school and I was working in video game development as just a freelance artist. Um, I wasn't really feeling creatively fulfilled because it wasn't really my place. That wasn't what I was hired for. So I didn't really get to contribute ideas. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's when I kind of remembered, oh, I like to draw comics. So I kind of started to slowly work my way back into doing that and ended up like making that my career. So it was a really wayward path to kind of be like, yes, I've always known that I wanted to be a comic book artist because like I did, but then I was like, well, maybe not. But then yes, I do. So
I feel like a lot of people have that when they feel like, oh, this is like an uncertain path, so I shouldn't
sure.
take it. And then they
Yeah.
realize later, like, actually, I do want to take that path because, you only live once, so might as well
Yeah.
try to do it.
It is. It's a risk and you're gambling on yourself, really, and you have to believe in yourself. Um, for me, I was married and I had a young baby, and it was definitely a risk. And I always wanted to, and I tell people this too, like aspiring artists and stuff. I'm like, if you have a day job, don't quit that. You need some kind of steadiness. Eventually you may find that you can get enough work and you don't have to have the day job. And I've been very fortunate in that
Mhm.
regard in many instances does not have to do that. But you need to at least have some kind of stability in order to pursue your dream. And it can be very taxing. I mean, just long hours, but I mean that's all about how passionate you are about it. Like if you really want to do it,
Mhm.
you will find a way.
So in the beginning, you had a day job, and on top of that, you were doing comics?
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so I say a day job.
Yeah.
Basically, it was a freelance job as well. So I've worked from home for 20 plus years now. So, um, like, uh, it was really the way that my day job worked was just in game development was I was given a list of assets to produce every week, and I worked on that, Monday through Friday, and I kept regular hours because I had a baby. And there were times I would finish early, so I ended up with like maybe an hour or two of free time. So what can I do? I was like, well, I'll just start drawing. And eventually I just kind of made myself like work faster and more efficient. And I mean, there was a lot of long hours. I would get up really early and stay up really late. So it's not something I really ever want to go back to because that's something for there's something to be said for youthful energy.
Mhm.
And the older you get, you don't have that kind of energy anymore. And I definitely don't think I could do that kind of workload today. But
But you know
back
what? I respect you so much for working so hard because that's insane.
Well, it kind of goes back to like my father. My father he was a doctor, but he was very passionate about his work and he loved
Mhm.
his job. And so I kind of had he kind of instilled that same philosophy in me is like if you're passionate about your work, then you'll get it done. You will do the work and it won't be work, it's your passion. And I mean, you still have to carve out time for, personal life and a social life. But,
Yeah.
I guess like at the end of the day, like I can't stand sitting still, basically. I need to be doing something. And like, I don't understand this. Like I've encountered lots of people in my various careers who just like, and I hate to use the word lazy, but they're is not as motivated, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't resonate with me. Like I want to be, reaching for the next goal and trying to find ways to like improve my skills and stuff.
hmm that's a great mindset.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the phrase like 90% of people don't start, so if you start, you're already ahead of 90% of people?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great philosophy. Yeah, that's the biggest problem. It's the same thing with like developing a comic is like getting started, that
Mhm.
initial stage that I told you about, like, because once you actually get it going and you actually get the ball rolling and then, you feel accomplished and you feel it ups your motivation and you're already like way more steps ahead of other people who just kind of daydream about it. And it's like, oh, it's all in the ether and like, oh yeah, one of these days I'd like to do this or whatever, you know, do it. It's like you said, you only live once. And like, that's how I look at it. It's like, I want to do as much work as I can, as I'm physically capable of while I'm still enjoying it. And I'm still enjoying it. And I love telling stories, creating art for these different types of stories. And that's where my passion is like I want to tell, all sorts of stories. Every comic that I have a couple of, I have like three other projects lined up, and they're
Wow.
all different genres of things that I've ever done. And that's what motivates me is like, what haven't I done yet?
Mhm.
And like that's exciting to me and that motivates me.
Do you feel like you have a genre that you're like more usually lean towards?
Um, I've kind of been, I guess, like, pigeonholed, or I guess, I don't know, like a lot of my stories that I've drawn
Mhm.
have taken place at like in schools. So I drew a lot of Archie comics, Archie is
Yeah.
like Riverdale and all that. And then before that, I had a book called Morning Glories, and that took place at a private school. My new book, Student Government, is about a college, and so it's
Mhm.
students again. So and it's not really a genre, but like, that setting. But
Yeah.
I guess like in terms of like a genre that I tend to do a lot of, I would probably say like thriller. A lot of the books that I've done, like Morning Glories, they're multi-genre basically, but like the overarching kind of thing would be like, I guess, dramatic thriller. I guess
Mhm.
that tends to be where I end up. And like I love to try new things. I've done a lot of horror. That's the other genre. I've done a lot of horror books. But I love science fiction, spy, action adventure kind of stuff. Fantasy is one I haven't done yet, and I'm starting to develop something like that, like, not necessarily like Lord of the Rings, but that kind of, setting.
Mhm.
So,
I don't
yeah.
know why. I feel like I'm always lean towards sci-fi for some reason.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
my favorite movies are, I'm sure you've heard of it because they're very famous, but I love like Matrix and
Oh, of
like
course.
Terminator.
Yeah. Classics.
Do you
Yeah. I
feel like
mean,
you also watch stuff that you write about, Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. That stuff is 100% influential. I mean, I love The Matrix as well, and science fiction is probably one of my favorite genres. I love the Alien franchise.
hmm
I grew up on Star Wars, and I draw Star Trek comics as well. So, sci-fi is definitely like that's kind of my wheelhouse. I love that. But there's
hmm
so many facets to sci-fi, that I haven't really got to draw. I'd love to draw a comic like The Matrix. I mean, like that kind of story is so, compelling to me, and I love the way they did that story. And I'm by that same token, I would love to tell like, a space story like, Alien or something like that, something set
hmm
in outer space. Because I've never really gotten the chance to draw that. I mean, outside of a few instances of like Star Trek.
Yeah.
But yeah, science fiction, I love it. And hugely, films in that genre are hugely influential to me. Like I have Prometheus, the movie poster behind me. It's a
Uh-huh.
prequel to Alien. Like that was one of my favorite movies. So yeah, sci-fi, big, and Blade Runner as well. Got Blade Runner over there.
Mhm.
So yeah, big influence.
Are those your favorite movies?
Well, some of them. I mean, Ridley Scott, the director of both of those movies, is probably my favorite director.
hmm
I mean, every director has, ups and downs, but to
Yeah.
me, there's always something I can find that I enjoy in his films,
hmm
and the way he composes his shots. Like as an artist, that's what what keeps me a fan of directors. So like
hmm
Ridley Scott, Stanley Kubrick, Alfred Hitchcock, a lot of older directors.
hmm
I love their work. Denis Villeneuve, the guy who directed the new Dune movies, he's probably like my newer favorite director, just because his style is just so beautiful and eye-catching, and he has such a great eye for framing his shots and creating drama and beauty in his frames. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, Alien, the movie, the original Alien movie from 1979 is probably my favorite film of all
hmm
time. Um, which is funny because like nothing I've ever worked on is remotely like Alien. So like I've yet to tell a story that
hmm
is like my greatest influence. So that's on the list of things I want to do.
I'm kind of curious because you said you draw a lot of thriller. Have you ever
Yeah,
watched? Okay, this is more like horror maybe, but have you ever
sure.
watched Substance?
I have not. That's on my list. Like I have actually my co-writer on student government. We're developing another story, and he was like, "You need to watch Substance. This will like totally like it'll make so much sense for like the story we're telling." And I'm like, "I need to watch it." So it's on my list. But yeah, I've heard
Mhm.
such good things about it.
What would you say is like the most latest movie you've watched so far?
Oh, I don't get out a whole lot as much, so I end up streaming a lot of stuff. Um, I'm trying to think what the latest film that I watched. Oh, I know exactly. Heretic with Hugh Grant. It
What's that
just
one
came
about?
out. It's a horror movie. It's about these two. Mormon missionaries who go
Uh-huh.
knock on his door, and he kind of traps them. And it's a a movie about them trying to escape, and it's really it's very tense and horrific, and there's a lot of deep kind of philosophical storytelling elements that I wasn't expecting about like the nature of religion and life and stuff. And I was so surprised how much I enjoyed it. It was really good. And like Hugh Grant, I don't know if you're familiar with him. Like he's a really famous British actor like from the 90s who's done
Mm.
like a lot of romantic comedy movies and more of like, I've always seen him as kind of like a buffoon because of his comedic roles, but he was so
Yeah.
terrifying in this film. And I was like, he's one of the best actors because like of his versatility. I'm like, he is his skills over the decades. I'm like, that he has the skill.
Wait, have you ever released your own like 100% your writing stories before?
I haven't, and it's funny because like my wife is always encouraging me to do that, but like I always end up like putting it off because for one thing, like I've written so many like you know uh log lines and like little ideas, and in fact when I was in college I studied film, and so I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I
Mm-hmm.
wrote two full film screenplays, no, three. Sorry, I wrote three full film screenplays. Never filmed them, but I wrote them. So like, I've written stuff, projects start to finish, but like in terms of like a comic, what I do now, I've not done that. I do want to. I have a couple of different ideas. It's just a matter of making myself do it. I think I would have to like I'd have to brainstorm something because like my book Student Government, it's
Mm.
188 pages long, and that's pretty massive story. I don't think I could write something that big. I don't think I would be confident enough in my writing skills to do that as my first, written and drawn book. So I would have to do something smaller, just like a little, maybe like a 30-page little one-shot little comic or something. But it's just a matter of finding the right idea for that format. But yeah, I it is one of those things. It's like I said, like I want to keep working until I really want to keep working until I can't like draw
Mm.
another line. But that's on my list. It's like I'm going to write and draw something one of these days because the closest I ever got to that was a web comic that I did for a few months when I had a Patreon.
Mm.
And that was so much fun, but it was very smaller scale. It was like three panels, every month. So like just a comic strip.
What's the story you wrote in film, like the
Well,
film
so,
crew? The, s-
so for the little comic strip,
the scripts you wrote in
oh, the
college.
scripts in college. Well, they were like comedy movies. They were like one was like they were really I was really influenced by this director Kevin Smith
Hmm.
who's directed like Clerks and I'm trying to think about his other films, but he's very it's kind of R-rated humor kind of stuff. So I had an idea of like it was the same kind of genre of storytelling. So there was like a story about people who worked in like a toy store.
Hmm.
I don't know if anybody remembers Toys R Us, there was used to be this whole store devoted to toys.
Yeah.
And like it was like the toy store was like a front for the mob. And so it was a comedy and it was action and it was very silly. And then I wrote two other comedies that were kind of like teen comedies, like, the night after, it was like a single night one, like right after graduation. And you just follow this group of kids around and like the shenanigans they get up to.
Mm.
And yeah, like I always wrote more humor stuff because I that's what I love the most. That's what I love about student government is it allows me to draw humor and to work in that genre, which is probably I would probably say that's my favorite to work in. As much as I love all my other genres or that I enjoy as a fan.
Yeah.
Um, Comedy is probably like my favorite, and it's also the most difficult to really pull off.
Hmm.
Because especially on a in a comic, like it's one thing to do it like in a movie or a TV show or something, but like in a comic, like you're beholden to the speed of the reader, like so your jokes and the body language and everything, it all has to be perfectly timed, and work really well in sync in order to pull off the humor. So
But you know what? I feel like you could turn those scripts you wrote
Yeah.
into a book,
I
honestly.
know, I know. I thought about that, and I need to dig those out and like figure out like maybe I could just rework these and
Yeah,
make them comics. So yeah, it's actually not a bad idea.
because I also feel like the best way to learn is just by doing it.
Yeah,
So instead of like just starting with something small, I feel like you have enough experience
right.
writing comics
Yeah,
to be able to just make a whole script out of it. And it's probably
yeah,
not
sure.
gonna be that long. How long was the script?
Well, my scripts for the screenplays that I wrote, they were probably like anywhere from 90 to 120 pages long. I can't remember exactly. It's been a long time since I opened those files. And
Mm,
I actually I had them printed out a long time ago, and I don't know where those are, but yeah, that it was a lot. But I mean like for a script, like a screenplay that you're writing for a movie or whatever, like the rule of thought is like 1 page equals 1 minute of film.
mhm.
So that's why every script that I wrote was like at least 90 pages or more because an hour and a half is like a good at least base point for a movie, and
Yeah.
then you go longer than that, and then that's pretty much where we are now with like films. So.
Hmm. Is it the same for comics? Is it like one page is like one page
Right.
of
That's
comic?
a good question. It's not because the way everybody writes differently. So like I've
Mm,
worked with lots of different writers and the way they write. So a lot of stuff I worked at Archie. I worked with this guy Frank Thierry, and his scripts were super minimal. Like so, a comic script is typically broken down like a page, and then a comic has all the panels and stuff. So they will say page one, panel one, and there'll be like a description, and there'll be like the dialogue. Um, a lot of the times, just due to the nature of like publishing and print and all that stuff, like a writer won't have all the final dialogue, but they'll need to get the comic drawn. So they'll send like a really loose script to an artist. So like a lot of the times what Frank would do is he would send me a script with just a little bit of description, very minimal dialogue. So his page, with like a full page, like his script would probably be like, a third of it for each page. Um, and but then I worked on a book called Star Trek Halloween, and the writer
mm,
Chris Sicaria, like his scripts were full of like massive paragraphs of description and context and stuff like that. And so like a standard comic book is itself 20 pages long.
mm.
His scripts would be 40, 50 pages long, just with all the paragraphs of description and then the dialogue and all that stuff. So the script in a comic doesn't necessarily equate to exactly how many pages the comic is going to be.
My God, that's so much reading.
It is, it is. And so, like, in terms of preference, I like the looser scripts because like I said, I've been doing this for 16 years. I've read lots of scripts. I tend to like when I read the script, like I want to capture what I'm seeing in my head immediately.
Mm,
So if it's a really dense script, then I have to take time to really read everything and internalize everything. But if it's looser, then I get to let my artist brain kind of work and be like, okay, now I can see this, da 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 da. But
yeah.
there sometimes in like a happy medium between the two is ideal.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because you probably prefer more of the creative freedom, right?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, so I've worked on some scripts that are like very into lore. So like my book Morning Glories, the writer Nick Spencer, and it's a very dense story-wise book because there's time travel, there's all sorts of there's like just all kinds of lore for this and everything.
Hmm.
And so certain scenes I would need him to flesh out the script quite a bit. Like I need context, but by that and the inverse of that is like if we have like an action sequence, like if like in the Matrix when Neo is fighting Agent Smith or whatever, like a scene like that in a comic, I don't want you to describe every punch. So like a lot of times a writer would be like, okay, action scene starts here and then
Hmm.
it ends here. What you do in between is up to you. And I love that. That's like my favorite. And so like I've had writers like you got 4 pages or 4 to 6 pages for this action sequence or whatever. It's going to start when he throws the punch here, and then it ends, in here. So the rest of that in between is up to you. So like I can do multiple panels, or I could just do big, giant panels of like, fighting and stuff, or a car chase or something. So action, I like that, especially when it's a lot looser and left up just to me to kind of, choreograph.
So action is like your favorite thing to write or draw,
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, it's my favorite thing to draw,
Yeah.
because it allows me to have a little bit more creative freedom and more storytelling freedom.
Yeah.
Since comics is so collaborative, a lot of times, like writers, they're very protective of their ideas, and they don't necessarily want the artist to contribute. And it's not every writer, but
Mm.
then and also there are artists who really don't want the writer telling them what to do. They're like, just let me do my thing. You write the script and I'll draw it. Don't tell me like, well, what if you do this or whatever. But the best collaboration obviously is like a happy middle between that. But I do like it when I'm allowed some kind of creative say. Like a lot of time, the best writers will be open to collaboration to be like, well, what do you think? Do you think this works, or do you think we need another page, or do we need to dial this down? There's been plenty of projects that I've worked on where I feel like uh, storytelling could have been more concise. Like maybe we padded out a scene with too many pages, and if I was like the writer or the editor, I would have like cut some stuff
Yeah.
and made it more efficient. Or there are other times when I'm like, oh, I feel like this is not clear, and I feel like we need, and I've done this a couple times. I'm like, okay, we might need to add something here, like maybe add a page or add some panels or something because it's a little confusing. And so
Mhm.
that's, because when you're taking the written word and you're trying to turn it into a visual, it's not an exact science sometimes. Like, sometimes
Yeah.
it translates pretty easily, but then other times, like what's written doesn't necessarily, clearly translate to the written or to the visual. And so sometimes some additional context is needed.
Do you have any examples of instances when that happened where you had to be like, oh,
Um,
this is a little pacing's too bad, too many panels, maybe we should cut it out.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say the book because I don't want to like,
Yeah.
badmouth anyone, but there was a project that I worked on um in the past few years where I was like I really feel like the writer was being very indulgent with this scene, and there was like these characters that they were very obviously fond of. A lot of times
Yeah.
writers will attach themselves sort of to characters and sort of like live out through proxy through these characters.
Yeah.
And I felt it was a little overindulgent, and I didn't speak up at the time, but I really wished I had. That's one instance where I wished I had because I feel like it would have made the storytelling crisper
Mm.
and better, honestly. But it's one of those things like every relationship, every collaboration relationship is different. So as you work together, you learn like, okay, what's okay and what's not. And
Yeah.
this was an instance where I was like, I don't really feel like this would be welcome, like my input on this particular scene. But on the contrast of that, like, where I've had this is like there was a scene in Morning Glories, my very first success comic, where we were doing this scene, and it was supposed to be this uh scene about a teacher and a student having an improper relationship. And the way it was written, I drew it the way I thought it needed to be drawn, and then after it was drawn, talking to the writer and our editor, we're like, this is not appropriate. We can't have this scene like this. So we had to kind of retool it. And it really
Mm.
wasn't until it had been drawn and we saw it that it was like, okay, seeing it in the script was one thing, but then actually seeing it, drawn out, it was like, no, we can't do it this way. So, I generally, as a rule, don't want to redraw something after I've drawn it because it's
Yeah.
like it's so time consuming. Like typically, a comic page will take about a day to draw. It just depends on the amount of detail. So if you
Mm.
spent all day on something and then you're told, no, we got to trash this and start over, it can be like excruciating. But
Yeah.
in this case, like, I mean, you have that initial like you're so mad about this, but then your rational mind takes over and you're like, okay, they're right. And then we have to like get on a call and like, brainstorm like how to rework the scene. And so, um, yeah, I mean, it does happen. And I think in the end, it makes the final products better if, you end up in an instance where something needs to be retooled.
Have you ever like worked with someone, you don't have to say who, of course, like
Yeah.
very, very difficult to work with, like a writer that's super,
Oh,
super
yeah.
picky?
Oh yeah, yeah. So there was one project, again, yeah, not naming names, but this writer pursued me based on my art style for Morning Glories. So my art style, I would say I'm not only am I influenced by the comics that I grew up with, but I'm also influenced by animation. I love animation cells and stuff like
Me
that. So
too.
I grew up loving stuff like The Secret of Nim.
Hmm.
And then also like anime, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and
Yes.
I love like animation cells. And so those cells, before they have all the color, that's really clean lines. It's just like
Hmm.
it's just line art. And that was my approach on Morning Glories because I had a collaborator on that book who did the colors. His name was Alex Salazzo, and he's still to this day probably like my artistic soulmate just because of the way, yeah, I mean, you find these people in comics, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Like, he took what I drew and he basically made it like film. It was like cinematography. He would
Oh
do
my
dynamic
God.
lighting and it was beautiful. Like it's as an artist, it's hard to go back and look at your older stuff because
Hmm.
all you see are the mistakes. And
Yeah.
I still see that when I go back and look at Morning Glories because that was like, 14 years ago at this point.
Hmm.
But I can look back at that book and just, just be awed by the beauty of it just because of the collaboration of Alex and I. So anyway, this writer had pursued me based on that, and Alex was not available.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get to drawing this book, and the story that he wanted to tell, he kind of changed it, and he was like he wanted to do this like approach that really wasn't what I was brought on to do, I thought. So we clashed a lot,
Hmm.
and throughout the entire process, and it was really frustrating. But I mean, he was very apologetic in the end, and we did kind of mend fences. We went because we were at New York Comic Con one year, and we kind of went and got breakfast together and kind of shook hands and just mended fences. But I don't think that's a collaboration either of us is ever going to pursue again because
Well,
we
yeah.
just yeah, we're just both not compatible, and that's how you learn. Not every collaboration is going to go smoothly, and that was one that just didn't go smoothly.
But you know what? I feel like those like tough experiences give you like evolve you in a way, and it
Absolutely.
helps you improve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, I think it taught me, for one thing, because I'm very, I mean, I grew up very shy, and I'm still kind of shy, and
Never
it
gets
taught me that
started.
well, it taught me that I need to advocate for myself, and that
Yeah.
if I feel passionate about, something, that I need to stand up for that. And if something's not working out, to not just see it through just because, to just say this isn't working out and we're gonna have to probably part company or whatever. Because
Hmm.
that probably would have been the best move, but at the end of the day, like I also I didn't want to leave my editor in a lurch because I really liked our editor that we had. He was a nice guy. And I didn't want to put him in a bad spot by bailing, so like the professional thing to do was to stick it out, I thought. But since that was like a work for hire project and not a creator owned with that, he and the writer and I had generated ourselves, like in that particular instance, the professional thing to do was to stay there. But like if it was something we were developing together, like an original idea, and we start working along, and we find that we're clashing a lot, that would probably be a thing. I'd be like, okay, maybe we should just not work together.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, wait, I had a question I was gonna say.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. So you said you did comic books like and doing day job at the same time. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously at one point you became a full comic creator, right?
Yeah.
So did you have like a plan on how that was gonna happen at the
No. No, I did not. Because I kind of just, well, I wanted it to happen. I wanted to just do the comics full time, but
Yeah.
I had a mortgage. So I was like, I gotta have the day job. And what happened was, ended up being decided for me because my boss just laid me off on my day job. So that kind of forced me to kind of pick myself up and really, pursue it myself. And it was actually a long time coming. And it was actually, in the end, very helpful because I was in a rut in that job and not really passionate about it anymore. So, um, yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that like I should have left it earlier,
Hmm.
and I would probably would have been happier. And I probably it was just one of those things. It's like you always you always have anxiety about like the other side of that question. Like, well, what if I quit?
Yeah.
And you don't know, it's the fear of the unknown, and I guess I was just too nervous about it because by that point I had two kids, and I was like, I don't know that this is the right move to just leave this and just pursue this comic, career, which, you know, art is just it's never a guarantee. Any kind of creative field is never like a steady job that you can just count on. It's like it's not a service that people will always need. People always need doctors, you know,
Yeah.
but they're not always going to need artists. So, uh, but it taught me to be more tenacious and to network and to, put myself out there. So, ended up, yeah, it was a good thing. And so when that happened, I worked, I busted my butt, and I mean, I took on some other part-time jobs, to fill the gaps or whatever. But yeah, eventually I was able to just do it full time.
So what kind of things did you do?
I worked freelance graphic design for a little bit. I did some teaching on and off, like art classes. Um,
Online?
a little bit online, in person as well. So it's kind of like private art lessons,
Hmm.
that kind of situation. And uh, now I still teach occasionally, but I mean it's like super part-time. Like I'll
Yeah.
teach one or two classes a semester at a local community college where I live.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's just nice. And like, I look at it as, and my wife laughs too, because it just gets me out of the house. Because otherwise, I stay here all day. Like, she'll come home from work and she's like, "Did you actually go outside today?" No. So, I actually enjoy the teaching occasionally because you do miss the social interaction and stuff. And drawing comics, creating comics outside of, the collaboration part, like when you're developing an idea, it's very solitary,
Hmm.
especially art, you know, long hours in my office here just by myself. And while it's nice, I mean, I get to work in my pajamas, but uh, it's also like you get cabin fever. So,
You know what? I feel the exact same way because I'm the
yeah.
exact same.
Hmm.
Like my family, they come home right after like my sister goes to school. She comes
Yeah.
back and she's like, "Did you leave the house?" Exact same question. I'm like, "No." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Why? It's sunny outside." I just think like, but because I have stuff to do. Like, why would I
Yeah.
leave the house?
I know. I was like, I have deadlines. I can't go outside.
Yeah, this is like my first interaction the whole
Oh,
day.
wow.
So, but you like try work from just a computer, right?
Yeah, I do everything from my computer. I have a second monitor, which is just a tablet. So it's
Mhm.
off the screen here, but it's like my second monitor. So I draw on that. So like I'm over here drawing and I have my computer monitor here. Like a lot of times I'll have tabs for like I'm working on a Star Trek comic page today. And I
Mm.
have to have reference for all these spaceships and these characters. So like I have my web browser here on my other screen so I can have like reference of like the faces and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's like my setup.
My reference is myself. I always take a picture of like me posing, and then I
Oh,
just
I
link
do
it.
that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too about like art in general is like a lot of when I get questions from like aspiring artists, like how
Yeah.
do you get better? And I'm like, don't be afraid of photo reference. I take a ton of photo reference. I bought a camera specifically to take my own photo reference because like it helps. Like it helps you like you can't just automatically conjure everything out of your head.
Mm.
And it's not always, time efficient either. Because like there were so many times early in my career, I would be drawing something like, oh, it's not right. I have to erase, start over, erase, start over. But if I had just taken a reference photo, because like I'm not a big fan of like people like screen capping like movies or just like taking photos that they find on the internet and tracing them. But if you're doing it yourself, I feel like that's like it's more authentically you anyway because like
Yeah.
you're generating the idea.
Hmm. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah,
Because if I didn't, I'd be a hypocrite right now because I do that already. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering though, because you do everything on my computer, on your
Hmm.
computer. I
Yeah.
do that as well.
Uh-huh.
And my father does that as well. And my
Hmm.
dad uses that as kind of an excuse to travel a lot.
Oh
Do you
yeah,
do that?
to travel.
Yeah, or like you can move because you can basically work from anywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. I mean, we were just there in Seattle for the con, And my wife loves it there, and she's like, she would love to live there. And I'm like, I can do my job anywhere, honestly. Like, that's the nice thing. I mean, I took some of my work with me to Seattle, and like in my downtime, I worked on some pages for an upcoming comic. And yeah, that is probably my favorite perk of this job is that I'm not beholden to any particular location. The
Yeah.
only reason I stay here is because my kids are in school and like I want to make sure that I want to see them through to high school, but they're 16 and 12, so they're getting there.
But you know what? I feel like you had a bit more stake than most people because most people when they're like, "Oh, I don't want to risk it," they're alone, right? It's not like they're
Right.
in a relationship or something, but you have a
Yeah.
whole family to provide for. So
Right,
that's
exactly.
a lot of responsibility. So I
Yeah,
respect
it
you for
is.
that job.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean that is, and like that's a big part of who I am anyway, because like, my kids, they've known dad as having worked from home their whole lives. And so
Yeah.
I like that they have that stable, memory and feeling of me knowing that I'm always here. I mean, if something comes up, I can put my tablet down and go do it or whatever. If they
Yeah.
need to go, they have a doctor's appointment or something, like I'm easily available for that. But during it was a little difficult sometimes, like when they were younger, like we had to be like very clear boundaries. I'll say like, from these hours I need to be working. The rest of
Yeah.
it, we can go play Legos. But they're definitely, much more accustomed to it now. And I think that they kind of, even that even kind of informs like kind of the stuff that they're interested in doing. Like my oldest, he has his own YouTube channel and he does his own animations and stuff. And like I don't know if that's what he wants to do for a career.
Mm.
I don't know how viable it is, but like he does that all in his room and he's really good at it. But like, I'm also telling him like maybe you should go out with your friends. Maybe you should get out of the house or something. But he's known that I've worked from home my whole life, so he's like, well, I can do my own work from home, kind of. So
Oh my God, but that's so amazing. He's getting inspired by you.
I'm not saying presumptuous to think that. I'm hoping it, but I'm hoping that that I'm a good role model to him. I've always tried to be a good role model and show that, even if you are at home, you can still work. You're not gonna be, I'm not slacking off. I mean,
Yeah.
there's times, when I'm finished early for the day, I'll go get on my PS5 and I'll play for a little bit, but that's like the exception, not the rule.
Oh my God, you're literally just like my dad. He starts playing video games.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. Like that's like it's actually because of COVID. So when lockdown happened, like, I was still working regularly, but like, couldn't go out anywhere. So I was like, what am I gonna do for fun? So I started playing video games again, and like that's just now become my hobby is like I like to play video games. Like I have so many things on my backlog just because like there'll be a sale like on
Mhm.
PlayStation or something, and I'll just buy it, buy it, buy it. But like I can only do like one game at a time. So like I have
Yeah.
like a ton of games and then I don't have like a lot of time to play them, so I work my way through my library pretty slowly. But like that's my hobby now, is I just love playing video games.
You know what? COVID actually kind of made, in a way, things a little easier for me because
Hmm.
Zoom became
Big,
um,
yeah, Zoom was
very
everywhere.
big in
Yeah,
the standard, right? So you
yeah,
didn't have to like actually meet everybody in person for
right,
meetings anymore.
yeah,
So that saves like traveling time, like by like
oh yeah,
hours, right?
for sure.
And and I have so much freedom now because I don't have to be like, hey, nice to meet you. I can just be like, hi, like this right now,
Yeah, yeah, totally. I agree. I love it. It's like, anytime like when I'm doing my teaching or whatever, like, at the beginning of every semester when we have to have like department meetings and stuff, they do them on Zoom now. It's great because I can put it on and I can draw like during the meeting. And I'm not like I don't have to travel to the campus and go do all that. But yeah, it has made things quite a bit easier.
So I'm kind of curious, how did you like get the first professional comic job? How did that happen?
Right. So it was all the internet. So back in the day, before like, Facebook and Instagram and all those ones, like there was this
Social
one called
media.
MySpace, and everybody I knew had a MySpace. And
Yeah.
so there was they used to have these things called bulletins. And someone I knew had posted a bulletin about a publisher in my area in Dallas where I live
Mm.
that was looking for artists. And so I had drawn like I had met people online and like drawn like little one page collaborations and stuff just to kind of, you know, get into the, industry, but nothing paid, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, I just reached out to this publisher based on this bulletin from MySpace, and I did like a little tryout for them, and they hired me. And so that was it. I mean, I literally just responded to a posting on the internet, and then they hired me, and that was the first project I did. And like, from there, I just, I worked with that writer again on another project, and then we worked on another one right after that for three different publishers. And so I had this portfolio of stuff, and back back in the day for comics, like the big social area were message boards, these
Mhm.
online forums. It's kind of like Reddit, where you can just go post any topic or whatever. And so there were a lot of independent, up and coming, aspiring comic creators there. And I would be posting my art. And one of the writers there, who was also aspiring at the time, his name was Nick Spencer. He saw my art. He's like, I've got this script. Do you want to read it? And it was Morning Glories. And, we put that pitch together. So like you do a little pitch for a comic. It's just like a short, like a cover and just a few of the pages and maybe some character designs and like a little plot summary.
Mhm.
And he went to San Diego Comic Con, which is, the biggest Comic Con, and he took that little packet and took it to like the third biggest publisher, which is Image Comics, and they're like the probably the best publisher for creator owned comics, like comics that you own your own ideas. And they
Yeah.
like, yes, let's publish this. And so, yeah, it was that. It was like, just building up my portfolio, posting it online. And then eventually, when Twitter started, I had a presence on there and kept posting and that using that to network and people finding my art and be like, hey, we'd like to hire you for this, or would you be interested in this? And so, it all started pretty organically, but like really from an online posting.
Wow, the power of social media, guys,
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it uses its power for good.
Do you post on social media?
I don't as much as I used to, just because, it can be kind of toxic, and I was definitely spending way too much time on there, getting into like stupid arguments about nerdy stuff for no reason. I'm like, why am I getting like into these discussions? It's not productive, it's just taking away from me drawing. But it's a lot of work as an artist too. Like, you, especially now with algorithms and things like that, you have to like, have a routine. You got to post so much content, and you got to do reels and things like that. And I don't have like the energy or the desire to really do that. I have my network of writers and editors, and I go to Comic Cons and meet people, and that's how I, network my jobs now. Not really through social media, but I enjoy browsing social media sometimes because like occasionally there'll be like trailers and stuff that I like to watch, like, ooh,
Yeah.
there's a new movie that's coming out or a new show. And that's
Mhm.
how I find out about it.
So I'm kind of curious, how did you meet your wife?
It's funny because it's also through social media. We actually met on Tinder. So, because we were both divorced and we were on
Mhm.
Tinder, and we just kind of met, and it was really innocent. Like we actually just started chatting. She was into cosplay, and I was like, "Oh, I go to Comic Cons. I'm a comic book artist," and she thought that was cool. So, we met up for coffee, and then we went to karaoke together, and just really uh, we just bonded over nerdy stuff. She's really into like Doctor Who and science fiction and fantasy, Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff. And I got her into comics and the things that I'm into. And so it was just one of those lightning in a bottle things. Like, of all places, like, I had tried different dating apps, whatever, and like Tinder was not really like the best place. And I was like shocked that's the one. That was the venue that did it. So yeah,
You know what? I expected kind of you if you were to have said a dating app, Hinge,
yeah,
because I've heard that's like the best one.
yeah. I've never tried that one, but I've heard things about that. Yeah.
It's called the app to be deleted. So
Oh,
a lot of my friends got into relationships using that app.
oh, weird. Okay. Huh.
I know, right? It's supposed to
Interesting.
be like you're supposed to find your soulmate or whatever. I don't know. I don't use it, so
Okay.
I don't know how to work. I mean, okay. I've like checked it, out of pure curiosity, but I never like went on there to genuinely find someone
Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
because it's not my priority so far for now, but I love
Yeah.
hearing love stories. So it's
Yeah.
like the ideal modern love story you have with your wife,
I know it's really funny and like there's always that like when I was in college like I would meet girls like at like the coffee shop that was around the corner from my apartment, and go on dates, and so but everything is, like people don't go hang out in coffee shops really anymore. So like the social media, the apps and everything, that's where people meet now. And so I didn't think, I was gonna really find someone that, was gonna be like the one. And we just clicked. It was so great. We're both like into music as well, and she's a great singer. She likes my voice, so we did the karaoke, and like that's kind of like our thing. It's like our special thing. It's like, because we did that really early in our relationship, and so um, yeah, it's funny how things work out.
Oh my God, that's so adorable. I like
Thanks.
singing too. Oh my God. What kind of songs do you sing with your wife?
Well, let's see, what did we do? We did a duet a long time ago of who was it? It was Michael Bublé and somebody. I forget what the song. It was I don't remember the song, but we did that once at a Halloween party. We did a duet for that, and most of the times we just like I always try to like karaoke like really silly songs like ones from the 80s, and I like try to like do them like in a sort of humorous way or whatever, but she sings like uh all these like I think she and her daughter have like done like Evanescence, the I forget what the name of that song is, and she does a lot of songs with her sister whenever we go karaokeing, and like she's like the pro at it, like she's done it a lot more than I haven't done karaoke as much. But she and her family and her friends have all done that for years and loved it. So,
Other than video games and singing, what other things do you do besides
um,
comics?
well, I mean, the other thing that I'm really passionate about is cooking. I do all the cooking in my household, so I'm a bit of like I'm not saying like I'm a foodie, but I'm a kind of like a nerd about food. Like I have a couple of different like, websites that I check like every day for like, food, like articles or recipes and things like that. And I I'll be like thinking like, ooh, can I get this new gadget? And my wife's like, no, you already have enough. Like I have an Instant Pot, I've got like a wok, I've got a little Pebble ice maker. I love, cooking and like then also like making cocktails, like learning new recipes. Like it's trying these new things that I love. Like, and thankfully my family are like always very like open-minded about things. Like I'll be like, I haven't tried this recipe. I'll send that to them. Like, would y'all be willing to try this? And yay or nay. And a lot of times they're pretty into it, and sometimes they don't work out. But yeah, I've always liked cooking. I cooked from a young age. Like I started like at age 12, and helping my mom in the kitchen, and ended up like because my mom at the time like she was involved in our church, and she had to go on some weekend trips, and I cooked for the rest of the family. I'm like 12 years old, and like
Oh
because
my
my dad didn't
God.
cook, and my siblings didn't cook, and so like instead of getting like takeout all the time, like I did all this cooking. I still think it's hilarious, but yeah, like those are kind of like my hobbies. I guess I would be cooking, playing video games. I like singing and playing guitar. I do occasionally do that, but I haven't played in a long time because like doing the art and everything, it involves your whole hand. I mean, like you're drawing, but like uh it's still like your whole hand is tired at the end of the day
Yeah.
of drawing. And so like I end up the way my brain is for some whatever reason, I play guitar with the same hand that I draw with. And so like my fingers get really tired. I can't like play as much as I used to, but I've always just been into like arts and everything, like whether it's comics or film or music. It's always been a part of my life.
Oh my God, you have so many interests. That's so crazy. Mine's so random. I saw an anime about like basketball and it made me
Uh-huh.
buy a basketball and go
Oh
to park.
wow.
But I'm not good
Nice.
at it. But that's like my other, and then I go to a gym, and I think that's the only two things. But you're like, oh, I cook,
Yeah.
I play guitar, I sing.
Oh,
That's so
well, I
much.
don't do these all the time. Like it's not every day I'm doing every single one of these.
Yeah.
But um, I mean, those are the things I'm interested in, and in traveling too. That's like probably like my biggest hobby that I love the most because like as you get older, what I've found like what I end up valuing more, and I tell this to my kids all the time. Like when I was young, I really enjoyed getting like new stuff, like like a new computer or things like that, or a new iPad. But like as I age, what matters more to me are like experiences. And so like I went to Germany last year to do two Comic Cons and like was gone for like 2.5 weeks. And like that was like one of the best things I've ever done
Mm,
because I got to travel abroad. And when I was younger, my parents were fortunate, or I was fortunate enough that my parents were able to take me to England and to France and to go on vacation there. And that stuff, like it's so meaningful to me. Like going to Seattle for the Comic-Con, like we went a few days early and when we toured around up there and just kind of had a little mini vacation. We go to the New York Comic-Con, we do the same thing. So like I do these Comic Cons ostensibly for work for my career, but I also like the travel aspect. So we always try to work in some extra time to go, have those travel experiences.
and then you're like, oh my God, there's a Comic Con in France. This is a good excuse to try real croissants, guys. And then you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
What would you say was your favorite place that you've traveled to so far?
So far. I mean, it's pretty much a toss-up
Mm,
between New York City and Paris. Um, like for different reasons. I mean, New York is
mm,
just like I go there every year and it's a very special place for me and my family. My boys have started coming with me every year for the show because the show in New York is in October. My wife and I she started coming with me when we were before we got married, when we were dating, and then after we got married, she would just come with me and help me work at the show and it was very romantic. And then we started bringing in my boys, and so then it became like a family thing. And so like now it's like so indelibly tied to like positive family memories that I will always have an affection for New York. And then Paris, I had been a couple of times, but the last time I went was during a spring break trip for my college. That I took
mm.
French as my foreign language. I can't speak it now. But we went on the professor in the French department had like a spring break trip to Paris, and we are gonna go tour around and stuff like that. And it was like my first trip as an adult, like out on my own, away from my family, and like that was such a significant moment in my life. Because I mean, I know I was still part of this group, part of this travel group or whatever for my department, but I wasn't traveling with my family. I was technically on my own and so that was a really formative trip and kind of taught me a lot about myself. And I just love the area. I love like that European kind of aesthetic, but then I also love like New York for like, sentimental reasons. So.
What do you mean sentimental reasons?
Well, like I said, like it's become such a like so many of the memories I've told like okay, this is where my wife and I had this a beautiful dinner like when we were dating or this is where my boys and I we walked the Brooklyn Bridge and it's like and we did this together and it's like that's what's so special about it is like I can always point to those memories and they're so tied to those locations that like
Mm,
going back there feels like revisiting those memories.
yeah, I agree with you. I've
Yeah.
been to Paris before too.
Oh
I went.
yeah? How'd you like it?
It was
Yeah.
amazing. I was eating baguettes every single day.
I love it because you could just walk down the street with them and just tear a piece off and just, walk around with that fresh baguette and they're so good over there.
I know. And the butter is so good.
Hmm.
We tried to bring it back to Canada, but they took it away from us. We were so sad.
Oh,
I know.
man.
Right? Wait, where are you located
I'm
again?
in Dallas, Texas.
How's it in
So
Texas right now?
it's really windy today for some reason. We've got like a wind advisory. I'm in the north part of Texas and we're like right in terms of like the location of the in the country, like that's in the tornado alley. So
Mm.
it's a little scary every spring because there's tornadoes. But it's not a tornado, it's just high winds. I can hear them like howling outside my window. And but it's beautiful, sunny. It's like oh, it's like 80 degrees or Fahrenheit. It's kind of warm.
Mm.
But yeah, I this is not like I've grown up. I lived in Texas my entire life, but it's not like I would not stay here if I wasn't tied here with my kids and stuff, you know.
Mm.
I would much rather live in a cooler climate. But
If you could choose wherever you could live, like without, and then your family can move with
mhm.
you, where would you
Yeah.
choose?
Oh, it'd probably be the Pacific Northwest somewhere, like, Oregon, Washington, somewhere in there. Just because my wife and I just love that climate and
Hmm.
we love that area anyway. So uh yeah, somewhere like there on the West Coast, the northwest would probably be where I mean we've traveled all over the place and there's places we loved like uh the southeast of America, like in Charleston, South Carolina, or wherever. Beautiful town. And we love that place as well. But like we don't have like we have like this weird like we're drawn to the Pacific Northwest for some reason. We just like it up there so much. But
That's so nice. It's,
yeah.
and it's actually so great to have your kids grow up in the place that you grew up in, right?
Yeah, I mean it is, and it's nice. It's consistent. I like my children to have some consistency and stuff, and like regularity or whatever. But like, um, Texas is just becoming so unbearably hot. Like every summer, like it gets warmer every sooner and sooner every year, and it stays hotter later and later. So like it used to be pretty temperate in like May and September, but now it starts getting hot in like late April and staying hot till like almost November. And
Oh.
it's bad. Like and the electricity bills when the it's so hot is just ridiculous. So I mean I do love the area and we love our house, but it's so hot here. That's the thing that we hate the most is the heat.
You can come over here to Canada. It's cooler here.
Yeah, I've been to Canada a few times. I love it up there. It's nice.
So you said you used to go to film school, right?
Mhm.
So would you want to make a film someday?
Probably not anymore. It's just because it's one of those things. It's like they tell you like when you're working in like food, like when you see how the sausage is made, it changes your whole perception of wanting to eat that stuff. So it's like the same thing. It's like I've learned too much about like the process of getting movies made, and I did some production stuff. I worked in TV news for a while and did some of the technical production stuff and just it's like what I really hate like about film production is like it's a really hurry up and wait kind of industry. So like it takes so long. Like if you're going to go out and shoot something, you have to set up and you have to like do all this stuff and like people are standing around waiting and then you do a take and then you have to like redo some stuff and then it's just you're around there all day and it's not really kind of what I want to do anymore.
You know what? I used to go to film school as well, and
Hmm.
I really hated that aspect too. I remember holding a mic for like the
Yeah.
whole day, and I never actually had to use it once because they decided that it didn't even sound good. So I was like, what am I
Oh.
doing here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to even mention like holding the boom mic and just like having to stand there and hold that for like, a long time and like how taxing that is. Yeah.
How about animation? Like, would you make an animated movie or a show?
That would be cool. I mean, that's something I've thought about because my son is into animation. I mean, his animations are really simplistic. Like it's funny because I see Cartman or no, I see Kyle and there in your background there from South Park because
Yes.
his animation is very South Park style. It's very like, the same kind of blocky characters or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, I would, that's one thing I thought would be fun is if like, I could collaborate with my kids on something as they get older. And if he stays with the animation, if he wants to keep doing that, I mean, that would definitely be something I would consider.
Mm-hmm. Is he like a storyteller as well? Does he like write little stories?
Oh yeah. Well, in his way, like without really like because I know he tries to keep like a low profile with his videos and his channel and like he doesn't want anyone in his circle to know that what he does, he has his fans on the internet but he doesn't want anybody in his closer circle to know.
Mm-hmm.
um but he is very creative. He does write scripts for his videos, and they're pretty good. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with him.
That's actually really impressive, you know.
Yeah.
12 years old, he's ahead of the
But this is the
game.
16-year-old actually.
Oh,
But
well,
yeah,
16 is
but
still it's still ahead of
yeah,
the game, still in high
right?
school, you know.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that he can do that even at that age is like way better than me because like anything that I tried to write at that age was just garbage. But his stuff is actually funny. So I'm like, wow, you're actually good at this.
Where would you say you get the biggest inspiration from? Is it from like your experience or what do you watch films and you're like, "Oh my God, I have an idea now." Where does it come from?
I'd probably say film's probably my biggest influence. We used to have a couple of really nice independent cinemas here in the Dallas area. They've unfortunately closed because, nobody goes out to the movies anymore.
I know.
Um, but I love discovering like independent films. Like I was really big into like independent horror films for a while, like It Follows and You're Next and stuff like that. And being able to discover something like that is just so inspiring. And I love, even going to see like Dune 2. Like I took my whole family and I, we went to see that,
Mhm.
and just the scale of it, the spectacle, and it was the cinematography. It's so inspiring, and like that totally like fires up my artistic brain. I'm like, now I'm inspired. I want to go draw.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Do you prefer movies that have like good visuals or good like story?
Wow. I mean both obviously, but like I guess I in my older age, I'm much more into like good stories, like because those stay with me longer.
Mhm.
I appreciate good visuals and they can be very inspiring, but if there's good visuals, 'cause there's movies I've seen that have really good visuals, but the story was like, and I don't really go back and watch those as much. Like there was, I think, there was a movie called The Cell a long time
Mhm.
ago, starred Jennifer Lopez, and the story is really cookie cutter. It's like a serial killer thing, and she's a detective, hunting him down and everything. But the cinematography and the visuals, the costume design, set design, I don't see how it didn't win an Oscar. It was so gorgeous. But the story was just so much of a letdown. And it's like it kind of taints the entire experience. And so, but at the same time, the inverse is possible too. So, like, a really great script can be let down by bad visuals. And that's the same thing. I mean, that applies to my industry too, into comics. And so you never want to be that guy who makes the bad visuals to a good story.
Yeah. I personally, I love story. I always describe it like the story is the fundamentals. So no
Yeah.
matter how good everything else is, if it falls apart because of the
Yeah.
fundamentals, there's no point, you
Right.
know?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
What is one advice you give to the aspiring storytellers watching this right now?
Um, always be open to, being influenced. I mean, never cut yourself off for something. Like you may find inspiration in the weirdest places. So like when I was in college, in film school, like they had a film club, an independent film club, and they would be showing these movies every week. They'd have different movies every week. I wouldn't have picked these movies, but uh so many of those films I was like, oh my God, these are gorgeous. I never would have heard of this. And it was like so inspiring to see some of these films. I never would have pursued it myself, so I was like, the fact that I was open to this experience really, helped me as a creative, it helped inspire my storytelling. I was like, there was a movie called Cold Fever that we
Mhm.
saw as part of this film club, and it was about a Japanese man whose parents had died, and they lived in like uh, Iceland or Greenland or something like that, but he had to do like this, ritual from his culture, like for like a burial ritual, and so he had to journey through this like icy wilderness and like just all these encounters and stuff. I've never even heard of this movie. But like that movie, 20 plus years later still resonates with me and I still think about it. And like the way the story was told, visually and narratively. And I'm just like, so that's what I tell people all the time. It's like, go to a club, go to a film club, just look online, look for, listings of like, people who have like film societies or something, or anything that you're interested in. If I try to get my kids into this too, like because I'm always trying to get my kids out of the house. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're interested in like, these video games, like why don't you see if there's like, like a group of kids that, that do gaming together and stuff, and you know, just go out there and experience things is really like my biggest advice.
Experience is the best way to get inspiration, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you say is like the hardest aspect of your career?
Um, Consistency, because like,
Yeah.
it is a lot of work, and it's like, keeping that pace, keeping that consistent schedule. Like, like I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Like I have a really set schedule. I work like basically 9 to 5, pretty more like 9 to 4:45 basically. And like making sure that I stick to that and like keep that consistent schedule, that's the hardest thing. And because like, life will throw things at you like, oh, the kids are sick, they got to go to the doctor, or like there's something, like my wife will call like my car is broken down. Can you come give me a jump or something? So you always have to roll with that. But as long as you maintain, it's like as long as I maintain like a semblance of a schedule, then like I will get work done, I'll be productive, and I will feel better about like, my day in general, as long as if I've like, okay, well, I did work. I didn't just slack off and just play video games, even though that's like what I really want to go do is just log off and go play my PlayStation. But I know better. It's the discipline. It's being disciplined. That's like the hardest thing.
Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. That's my
Yeah.
biggest struggle too. If I do stuff and I feel productive, I'm happier at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
When
for
I'm like
sure.
watching my TV show like Invincible, I'm like, at least I did work, so I deserve
Yeah.
this. You know? It's
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
little
It makes those things, those perks more rewarding if you've done the work. So,
exactly.
yeah.
So, Joe, where
Mhm.
can our awesome listeners find your work?
Well, you can find it at comic shops, anywhere really, or Amazon if you're buying stuff on Amazon. I don't know where people get their digital comics now, but wherever you can find comic books, you can find my work pretty much. I've worked for so many different publishers, so it's like I can't tell you a specific, publisher like, oh, just go to this publisher and buy all my stuff because it's been through so many different ones. That's where you can find my work, bookstores, Barnes and Noble, places like that will have my books. And then like online, I'm all over the socials. And like I said, I don't post a whole lot, but I am there and I do interact with people, but I'm just not like, I don't live online anymore. But I'm on Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, and I forget what else. Art Station. My handle is Supajoe, Supajoe.
Mm.
Um, and I'm always like, happy to discover new creatives. So if there's people that are interested in storytelling, like, because like that's what's so great about that is like I love, putting that out there and like, maybe one day, it'll lead to a new collaboration.
Yeah, maybe we'll collaborate. We never know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you never know.
Maybe my career will flourish, you know, and I'll have a couple comics and I need an
Yeah,
illustrator. I'm like, who do I know that can draw?
you never know.
Joe, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Podcast for Fun. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us and sharing your amazing, insightful ideas and thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Sophie. This has been such a fun, like relaxing conversation with you. So
I
thank you.
know time was flying so fast. Like I checked the clock and I was like, "Oh my God, it's already
I
been this
know.
long." And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and smash that subscribe button and share it with any fellow storytelling enthusiasts. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to explore, you can drop them in the comments or connect with me on any of my social medias. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and we'll see you on the next episode of Podcast for Fun.